Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the comprehensive yet informal study of Kant's Critique of Pure Reason. We are back. It's a new school year, new semester. Took some time off Kant study once again. That happens sometimes, but um, honestly, in my experience, it's been good in a way because I come back and I think it's one of those things where you like step away from it after being inside it for so long, and you become refreshed, and things just become more clear. I've also read lots of more like Kant, Hegel, got into Heidegger in my time away. Um, Reading more like look a lot of like post Kantian, not like directly chronologically, but people call it post Kantian, but just in the general sense, post Kantian philosophy. So I think, yeah, I'm excited to be back. I'm already like looking at this page and it's looking fresher than I remember it being when I was last year. So I'm excited. We're finishing up the second analogy because in our first run through of the transcendental logic section, and this subsection specifically, systematic representation of all synthetic principles, somehow we fucking missed. Um, I think the first two. I think so. That's kind of crazy because I think the what I have up now, it kind of just goes right into the third one, which is I think about simultaneity and community. But we're in the preceding one here. Um, Causality. We're talking about causality. His Kant's big response to Hume. I mean, if you're this far in the series, you probably already have heard my introduction. So, I mean, it feels fitting for me to just get into it. But I think everybody here, I'm here with Pat and Kirk. We've already gone over it. We know what's happening with Hume and Kant here. So, you probably do too. So, I think I will open up the floor for any further preliminary context givings or, discussions. But yeah, we can get into all that.
No,
Oh,
I think I've got it.
yeah.
No preliminary comments for me.
Perfect. All right. Well, so it has been a little bit for us though. So I think even though we might have read this paragraph already, I think it might be worth just revisiting so we can ground ourselves. Kant's going to introduce to us the problem, and then I think that'll just flow us right into
Right.
we
Yeah.
can. It's a while, but um, another good thing about redoing this and taking a break and figuring out schedules is that I can do this on days where I have lots of time. So I think we can kind of just grind this out. So okay, does anybody want to read this?
Yeah, I'll go.
All right.
So, now let us proceed to our problem. That something happens, i.e., that something or a state comes to be that previously was not, cannot be empirically perceived, except where an appearance proceeds that does not contain this state in itself. For a reality that would follow on an empty time, thus an arising not preceded by any state of things, can be apprehended just as little as empty time itself. Every apprehension of an occurrence is therefore a perception that follows another one. Since this is the case in all synthesis of apprehension, however, as I have shown above in the case of the appearance of a house, the apprehension of an occurrence is not thereby distinguished from any other. Yet I also note that if in the case of an appearance that contains a happening I call the preceding state of perception A and the following one B, then B can only follow A in apprehension, but the perception A cannot follow but only precede B, i.e., I see a ship driven downstream. My perception of its position downstream follows the perception of its position upstream. And it is impossible that the apprehension of the appearance of the ship should be first perceived downstream and afterwards upstream. Now, of course, that is just to stop here. Obviously, that is possible. Kant is using a very terrible example, but if you ignore that, you can get his point, right? He's saying, oh, it's not possible that the ship would be first downstream and then upstream. I don't think this man has ever ridden a ship and knows that you could, like, paddle up the ship. But ignoring that, maybe a better example would be something like, it would be impossible for me to see like a piece of wood burned and then unburned, right? Intact and then burned, or it has to be intact and then burned, not the other way. It only flows one way. Whereas obviously a position in space is probably the worst possible example you could do of this, because you can move objects in space in any position. But hopefully we get his point.
Yeah, you know what? I think I brought up last time as an example. I'm remembering now reading this. I think I brought up YouTube poop, where like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or just like in general, like that style of motion, like where there's like a video game glitch where someone will just like fucking teleport, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they're like walking and they'll like lag backwards and then jump for. Yeah, Kant's basically saying that doesn't happen in.
That kind of stuff doesn't happen. We can only proceed things in one order. Time only flows in one direction.
Wait, did you
Um,
say YouTube poop?
Yeah,
YouTube
like have you ever seen the YouTube poop where like Squidward will like barge down the door and then like the next like half second later the door's like intact fine and then the door's just completely destroyed and the like I don't know, it's quite funny. and the reason it's funny I think is because of what Kant is talking about here.
I haven't seen that specific one, but I'd like to.
What'd you say?
Yeah. Well, we'll show you some YouTube poops afterwards. I guess they're pretty funny.
Oh yeah. And like I said, the reason I think they are funny is because it's a sort of perversion of what Kant is describing here. Yeah,
The
that's
causal order of the
yeah.
causal sequence of events. Right.
Fuck you, mean
So
Squidward ain't in front of me anymore, and then he's behind me, and okay, sorry, go ahead.
have you seen the Scooby Doo one? No. Okay. All right. Here we go.
Okay.
The order in the sequence of perceptions in apprehension is therefore here determined, and the apprehension is bound to it. In the previous example of a house, my perceptions could have begun at its rooftop and ended at the ground, but could have also begun below and ended above. Likewise, I could have apprehended the manifold of empirical perception from the right or from the left. In the series of these perceptions, there was therefore no determinate order that made it necessary when I had to begin in the apprehension in order to combine the manifold empirically. But this rule is always to be found in the perception of that which happens. And it makes the order of perceptions that follow one another, the in the apprehension of this appearance necessary. Okay. Yeah.
Do we
So
want to? Oh yeah,
just
sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, to briefly summarize this paragraph here, it's simply that we can only perceive certain actions, certain events in one order. There is a necessary sequence of events. And this necessary sequence is how we can determine what happened before and what happened after in our memory. It's how we can piece together an experience. And this is unlike space. People say like time is the first, like fourth dimension, and space are the other three dimensions of the same thing. Well, maybe maybe in the world of physics, but in the world of phenomena and in the world of um, transcendental um,
Philosophy.
transcendental philosophy, yeah, in the world of transcendental philosophy, in the world of what we actually experience, time is unlike space because space can be ordered in any sequence, but time can only be ordered in one sequence, from cause to effect.
Yeah. Yep. Good summary. Thank you. That's I mean, whether you agree with that or not is up for debate, and especially in light of uh, contemporary science and physics. But
But the problem is,
that's
all that
what Kant's
contemporary
saying.
science is all empirical, and it's not transcendental. And this is a transcendental question, not an empirical question.
Well, right. I mean, some people might, I was just, I mean, and some people on the transcendental level might, I don't know, but that's what Kant is saying here. He's arguing for that necessity as a rule. Oh, and it's important to think too, that these are dynamic principles, right? So these aren't, I guess, always necessarily, uh, what would you call them, like active, I guess, but it's so insofar as like, uh, an experience does happen. Kant is saying this is how it happens. Um,
Yeah.
so that's
Pretty sure an experience always happens, so
uh,
I'm not 100% sure what you mean because
well, I'm opposing it to the mathematical principles.
Mhm.
In that mathematical dynamic distinction, you remember?
Yeah, I remember the distinction.
Yeah, I was just trying to point to that and say this falls
The
under dynamic.
mathematical what distinction?
The
The math.
mathematical and dynamical principles.
Okay.
So mathematical principles mathematical principles deal with any relation of things, um, assuming that they already exist. And so they're static in that way. Whereas dynamical deals with what does or does not actually come to exist.
Okay.
So we don't
In
need to suppose anything about the existence or non-existence of triangles, really, to have a discussion about triangles. But we do need to suppose the actual existence of a cause before its effect.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Okay. Does anyone want to read the next paragraph if there are no other questions?
I believe Kirk said that he's got like his cold still, so I think we're gonna alternate.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
That's fine with me. In our case, I must therefore derive the subjective sequence of apprehension from the objective sequence of appearances. For otherwise, the former would be entirely undetermined, and no appearance would be distinguished from any other. So yeah, if all we're left with are our own, subjective sequences, we don't. It would be senseless. There would be no, if there's no time to order them objectively, then
Right, and I think specifically he's saying that yeah. So we have to put our subjective sequence of events, like we have to put that in some kind of order, but that order, what order we put them in, is going to be left undetermined if there's nothing in the object that determines it.
exactly.
So
Yep.
this object of our experience, though it's still a
Well,
phenomenon,
specifically in the
objectively,
intuition, I think in the
right. So this object of intuition
it's
is
not like the ship has time inside. Like it's the
right, but
intuition
it
of time.
does have, well, but like there is a cause and effect relationship in the object, is what he's saying. Not just a subjective cause and effect relationship. It is objective, is what he's saying.
Well, it's subjective because of the intuition of
Right, but it's an objective. So, like, for example,
like the
let's
ship.
go
The
back
ship
to.
takes place within time and space. Like
Can we use the wood
time and space
example?
constitute the time and space in conjunction with these rules that we're going over now constitute objectivity.
Sure, but I think he's also saying that like the relationship between burnt wood and and unburnt wood is an objective cause and effect relationship rather than a subjective, because Hume says that like
Right.
our belief in cause and effect is subjective, and Kant is here saying that there is an objective relationship between these two objects, states of being, percepts, whatever, these two objects of
Yes,
the unburnt and the burnt.
because there's an objective time and space, which I think, I don't
Right.
know if Hume was directly challenging that or not, but
Well, it's not
that's
just that there is an objective time and space; it's that there's an objective relationship in time.
yeah, exactly. Well, that's what yeah, that's the objective relation. Yeah, exactly.
Right. He's saying that this is an objective rule of the
That
world
that
that
applies
has
to the
appearance,
yeah, that
which is
applies to
really
the
weird
objects.
Well, when we
because
say
it's like appearances that sounds subjective, but he's saying no, the
Well,
appearance
it
is
is
our
subjective.
object.
As we said a few months ago, I think it's subjectively objective, which
if I
is
Sort of.
if I may,
which is what
Kant,
Hegel finds absolutely absurd. What's up, Kirk?
if I may, so two things. I don't still have a cold. I think I've recovered, but I still have a cough, so I don't feel comfortable reading just because I might cough in the middle of it. And
That's
then the
okay.
second thing is related to this, um, is that when I think Kant is using the word objective, he's contrasting it to like the naive, somewhat naive empiricism of Hume, who says like we can't get necessity. He's saying it is necessity, but the objective necessity is of phenomenal experience, not of noumenal experience. So when
Yes,
Kant means
exactly.
objective, he means objective for phenomena, but that doesn't as a
Right.
matter of necessity of phenomena, which is why we can't look to Einstein or to physicists for space time because that's a philosophical transcendental question, not a scientific question. Right. So the problem is that Hume would probably be more like Einstein, where he's treating space and time as if they're just mind independent things, whereas Kant is saying no, it's mind dependent, but that's precisely what gives it its objectivity and its necessity.
Right,
I
yeah,
think
because
that's
our
a great
minds
summary. Yeah.
constitute objectivity. Yep. Whereas subjective in this sense that it's being stated in the paragraph is just like the
Purely existing within the mind of
yeah,
the.
well
Okay.
it's the typical like, it's what you actually experience as a subject
Right. Okay.
within
So
the objectivity that is transcendentally subjective but empirically objective. Okay. Uh good to I think, uh, just reiterate those details. I think I was here. The former alone proves nothing about the connection of the manifold of the object because it is entirely arbitrary. This connect,
ah,
huh?
just like you said, like subjective meaning arbitrary.
Oh, yeah. Yep, yep. This connection must therefore consist in the order of the manifold of appearance in accordance with which God the apprehension of one thing, that which happens, follows that of the other, which proceeds in accordance with a rule. Only thereby can I be justified in saying the appearance itself, and not merely of my apprehension, that a sequence is to be encountered in it, which is to say, as much that I cannot arrange the apprehension otherwise than in exactly this sequence. So, yes, there is an objective rule that happens, or that is applied, I should say. Rules don't happen. That doesn't make sense. Rules apply to happenings in the world that order it. That which happens, that which precedes that happening, or you could say like that which happens and that which follows as well. Right? It's a flow. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think
Okay.
there's much else to say. Okay, back to Pat.
Okay. In accordance with such a rule, there must therefore lie in that which in general precedes an occurrence the condition for a rule, in accordance with which this occurrence always and necessarily follows. Conversely, however, I cannot go back from the occurrence and determine through apprehension what precedes. For no appearance goes back from the following point of time to the preceding one, but it is related merely to some preceding point or other. On the contrary, the progress from a given time to the determinately following one is necessary. Hence, since there is still something that follows, I must necessarily relate it to something else in general that precedes, and on which it follows in accordance with the rule, i.e., necessarily, so that the occurrence as the condition yields a secure indication of some condition, but as to the latter, that determines the occurrence.
This is super interesting, I find, because I remember one time, I think Pat, you were here for this meeting like years ago at this point. We were like talking about how like history is possible, like as like a scientific study, like how can we literally tell what happened in the past? And Kant saying you can't do that, at least not, like exactly
Not
as it.
directly. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well, you can't. Um, I suppose what he's saying is that from any um, set of conditions in the present, A, then well, actually, let's make the present B. All right. So in any set of conditions in the present, B, then only one future, C, could follow. But from any set of conditions in the present, B, uh, it is not the case that there is one and only one A. There are many possible A's. Is his point.
Um, Epistemologically, yes.
Yes.
I don't think he would say like metaphysically that would happen, but in terms of like our knowledge of Like, right? I cannot go back to the occurrence, the
Right,
apprehension
well,
of
he's
existence.
not saying that like, oh, the past doesn't exist,
Yeah, I
such
mean,
that
yeah,
there.
yeah, exactly. Like, there is a point
Right.
preceding that
Well,
one.
there was in fact one A,
Yeah,
but it's not possible to determine just from B what that A was,
yeah,
because there are multiple A's that, given a single B, could have been been that A,
yeah.
if
This
that
also
makes
reminds
sense.
me of just to itself insert another like fun interest. In Batman Arkham Origins, there's like a feature where like you can use like detective mode to like reconstruct crime scenes, and it's just like I remember thinking as a kid, I'm like, how is it that like this like fictional Wayne Tech technology could have even like uh, been built up to the point where it can just completely, given these few clues, entirely reconstruct the crime scene. It's impossible. You can't do that. Cause Kant
Well,
points
not
out here.
only is it possible, it would kind of defeat the point of Batman, because one of
Yeah,
his
I
titles
mean,
is World's
well, the
Greatest
idea is that
Detective.
Batman's the only one who has the technology, and to do it,
Yeah,
you
but
have to
now
enter the
it's
scene of a
not
crime.
it's not Batman is the world's greatest detective. It's there's a machine. There's the
Yeah,
Bat machine that
Batman is the
does
world's
jobs.
greatest, bourgeoisie
AI's even taking
technology.
Batman's job.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, I mean, I don't. I guess the game never technically, or nothing in the universe ever like claimed it to like perfectly like it. Maybe just takes maybe it's something more like AI where it just like calculates all of the possible A's, and then reconstructs it to
Even so,
the
I
most
think that's
likely
kind of
one. But
lame. I feel like that kind of again defeats the point of Batman.
yeah, it's not the greatest. Yeah, it's honestly one of the most complained about like features in the because not only does it defeat the point of Batman from like a gameplay perspective too. People were like, I want to put the mystery together. That would be like fun. But no,
Exactly.
they had a computer, fucking AI.
Exactly.
um. Okay. Interest. Spiel time has concluded. Are there any other Kantian comments about the content? Looks like we can continue. Did who just read? I forgot already.
I did.
Okay, I will read.
But you and Pat can alternate.
Yeah. I just forgot if Pat or I read, but I can read. If one were to suppose that nothing preceded an occurrence, that it must follow in accordance with the rule, then all sequence of perception would be determined solely in apprehension, i.e., merely subjectively. Oh, yeah, yep, exactly. So there is an A that happens before, otherwise, there would be no objective order at all. Which is kind of interesting, actually. I wonder if you could construct it so that, like, you would have an objective B and C, but not No, actually, I don't think that makes logical sense. Anyway, sorry, I'm trying to just play fun metaphysics games here, but in terms of the text and in terms of who he's responding to, this is he's going at Hume again directly here, right? They're or I guess he's not going, but he's stating Hume's position at least, because
Well, he's
this is
reducing it to absurdity is the point.
well, yeah, through the previous stuff, but in this specific half of this, I should just finish this.
No, well,
I'm
the
doing it again,
reduction
right?
to absurdity. I mean, basically, he's like, it has to be this way. If it were this way, it would be absurd. This other way would be absurd.
Well, right, because subjectively, as we saw before, it wouldn't make sense, right? He said that somewhere up here. Yeah, somewhere up here. Um, right, it'd be arbitrary, right? But it would not thereby be. Oh, yeah, and he's just repeating that point, right? It would not thereby be objectively determined which of the perceptions must really be preceding the one and which the succeeding one. In this way, we would have only a play of representations that would not be related to any object at all, i.e., by means of our perception, no appearance would be distinguished from any other as far as the temporal relation is concerned, since the succession in the apprehending is always the same, and there is therefore nothing in the appearance that determines it, so that a certain sequence is thereby made necessary as objective. I would therefore not say that in appearances two states follow one another, but rather only that one apprehension follows the other, which is something merely subjective and determines no object, and thus cannot count as the cognition of any object, not even in the appearance. I don't know much to say about that. I don't know. Anybody else?
Yeah, me neither. Um. Okay. So, if, therefore, we experience something that happens, then we always presuppose that something else precedes it, which it follows in accordance with a rule. For without this, I would not say of an object that it follows, since the mere sequence of my apprehension, if it is not by means of a rule determined in relation to something preceding, does not justify any sequence in the object. Therefore, I always make my subjective synthesis of the apprehension objective with respect to a rule, in accordance with which the appearances of their sequence, i.e., as they occur, are determined through the preceding state, and only under this presupposition alone is the experience of something that happens even possible.
So there's the
I think he's
there's the
kind of
bigger
repeating himself.
GTFO to Hume. I mean, I feel like we've had a few of them even in the past reading and in this one, but boom, there
I,
you
I
go.
I do kind of feel like we're repeating ourselves a little bit at this stage.
Yeah, I wasn't even really going to go into it. I was just commenting that, yeah, this is the
Yep.
fuller, this is the
Yep.
extended cut.
Hume BTFO, the extended cut.
um, cool. Well, in light that we've already repeated ourselves, I'll just keep going. To be sure, it seems as if this contradicts everything that has always been said about the course of the use of our understanding, according to which it is only the perception and comparison of sequences of many occurrences on preceding appearances that we are led to discover a rule, in accordance with which certain occurrences always follow certain perceptions, and are thereby first prompted to form the concept of cause. Yeah, this is a good just I don't know what you would call it. Just you know, you're sitting here reading this and you're like, "Holy shit, yeah, this is different. This is not natural consciousness and this isn't especially at the time, I'm sure people were like, "What the fuck?" So, yeah. um Kant seems certainly aware of the gravity, the I guess profoundness in a way, of what's happening here. On such a footing, this concept would be merely empirical, and that, yep, so he's attacking empiricism if that wasn't clear already. And the rule that it supplies, that everything that happens has a cause, would be just as contingent as the experience itself. Its universality and necessity would then merely be feigned and would have no true universal validity, since they would not be grounded a priori, but only on induction. Yep. Yep. This is just like Kant repeating us now, like at this point, in terms of not the objective sequence, but in terms of what you're subjectively experiencing from the past episodes, and I'm sure. Yeah, these are just literally the same words at this point. Anyway, but the case is the same here as with other pure a priori representations, e.g., space and time, that we can extract as clear concepts from experience only because we have put them into experience, and experience is hence first brought about through them. Of course, the logical clarity of this representation of a rule determining the series of occurrences as that of a concept of cause is only possible if we have made use of it in experience. But a consideration of it as the condition of the synthetic unity of the appearances in time was nevertheless the ground of experience itself, and therefore proceeded a priori. So there you go. That's honestly a good way to. I mean, even though this is specifically being applied to the concept of causality, and that as a rule that governs empirical things, but is nonetheless synthetic a priori, as a synthetic principle. Um, I think this last bit actually is a good sort of I like to point out these little summaries when possible, because uh, if someone asks you like what Kant is about and what this critique is about, it's a bit if you're like, oh yeah, it's the possibility of synthetic a priori experience. It's like, what the fuck does that mean? To somebody who hasn't read it. So I think I mean, this is a little wordy, but this is in that way, but I think it also has enough normal natural consciousness words in it to sort of ring a bell. So this last part here especially. So just figured I'd point that out and appreciate it where it pops up, especially given we ourselves have ran into quite a few paragraphs at this point in the critique where we're like, hold on, I gotta read that again. And sometimes you haven't even ever made sense. Sometimes you just move forward. So I like to appreciate the clear.
It's the
So
little thing.
yeah. Uh,
All right. It is therefore important to show by example that even in experience, we never ascribe sequence of an occurrence in which something happens that did previously not or previously did not exist to the object and distinguish it from the subjective sequence of our apprehension, except when a rule is the ground that necessitates us to observe this order of perceptions rather than another. Indeed, it is really this necessitation that first makes possible the representation of the succession in the object. Um, I think I maybe understand what that was
I
trying to
understand
say.
the last sentence. I don't, or the last like phrase. I don't.
One sentence.
Uh, uh, uh,
um,
Indeed,
um,
that it is really this necessitation that first makes possible the representation of succession in the object. So it's the necessity of it's the necessity of the rule, um, that
well,
makes
I think
possible
what
the
he's
representation of success. So like we don't. I think this is actually the distinction that I was trying to point out before when we were talking about like when I said. That we were talking about like the ship. I mean, later you brought up the fire, but when I said, causality isn't like in the ship itself, it's not something that's like literally empirical, but we find it in the object because first it is in it, we necessitate it in our own like consciousness, and then like he says early up here, we put it into experience.
so I think I think the emphasis is on and distinguish it from the subjective sequence of our apprehension. Right. Not that we never ascribe a sequence to the object, but that we only distinguish it from the sequence of our apprehension when the rule requires us to observe that order of perceptions. Like,
Yeah, exactly. It's a transcendental argument. Yep, exactly.
well, it's like in experience, the only time I say this must have happened first and then that is when I'm referring to a rule that is objective and outside of me. So, like, maybe I didn't experience. Oh, so, like, here's an example: where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah,
Maybe I
yep.
didn't experience the fire. I didn't experience the fire, but I'm making a distinction between the objective sequence and my own subjective sequence here because I'm aware of this rule.
Yeah. Um,
I think that's what he's saying,
yeah,
but I don't.
another more interesting example. When Pat and I were hiking, we found this like weird fucking pattern of
Oh yeah, like it was just like circles.
yeah, it was like I forget what it was a circle of. What is it like? Was it like what was it a circle of?
It was like a
Acorns or
circle of
something?
small circles. No, it was a circle of small circles
Oh,
and
it was
then
in the sand. That's right. It was markings in the sand. Yeah.
around. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we were like how cuz it seemed a little like too perfect to like just be something that like, I don't know, like something had to
Randomly.
do it, so we were like yeah. Anyway, the reason we were able to even like come up with that line of questioning is what Kant is talking about here.
Yeah.
um, we
I
we
right.
presuppose an objective law.
Right. And we only make the distinction between the objective law and the subjective sequence when we know that whatever's in our subjective sequence of events must have been brought out by some kind of objective thing that happened that we are not aware of.
Right, exactly. Yeah, which is why I brought up the hiking. It's like we weren't there when that
Right.
happened. We're like, how the fuck did this happen? But we asked it in that way because we were presupposing that it did happen. um,
Right.
because of this rule. Okay. That yeah, we didn't just subjectively like we weren't like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if like something did this? Like no, it did. It did. It's a rule. Okay. My turn for the
Yes.
big chonker. We have representations in us of which we can also become conscious. But let this consciousness reach as far and be exact and precise as one wants. Still, there always remain only representations, i.e., interdeterminations of our mind in this or that temporal relation. Now, how do we come to posit an object for these representations or ascribe to their subjective reality as modifications some sort of objective reality? objective significance cannot consist in the relation to another representation of that which one would call the object, for that would simply raise the question anew. How does this representation in turn go beyond itself and acquire objective significance in addition to the subjective significance that is proper to it as a determination of state of mind? If we investigate what new characteristic is given to our representation by the relation to an object, and what is the dignity that they thereby receive, we find that it does nothing beyond making the combination of representations necessary in a certain way and subjecting them to a rule, and conversely that objective significance is conferred on our representations only insofar as a certain order in their temporal relation is necessary.
Oh,
So
this is
I think what Kant is saying here is like, how do we? Um, I think Kant is basically saying, like, rhetorically asking himself, how is what you've just said possible? How do we take, you know, something that is in us, temporality, right? It's the form of inner sense, and ascribe it to something objective. Like, where's this third term, Kant? Where's this third magical thing that you're like pulling out of your ass that you're making this work? And Kant is saying, I think the answer to that is just repeating it, right? It's like, if we investigate what new characteristic is given to representations by relation to an object, right? What's this weird third thing that's allowing us to have this relation between time and the specific objects in space? It does nothing beyond making the combination of representations necessary in a certain way and subject them to a rule. That's the answer. Kant's saying is that, like, the problem is you're looking for something like external instead of looking at the very conditions of what's already happening. So it's
so.
like, yeah, don't
I
look
think
up, look inward. And what are you presupposing by even, having the experience you're having and speaking the way you're speaking?
I think I'm reading this a little bit differently. I think for
Okay.
me, what seemed to be the rhetorical question was, how do we distinguish a mere representation from a representation of something objective, of an objective thing, right? Well, one possible answer, like he puts forward and then rejects, is that, objective objective significance cannot consist in the relation to another representation, where that would simply raise the question: how does the representation in turn go beyond itself and require objective significance? So it can't be that we know that this relation is this representation is objective because it relates to another representation, because then that representation would have to relate to another representation ad infinitum.
Right.
So what is
Yeah.
it that makes the representation objective? It is the fact that it follows rules regardless of what, like, we want, what we think, etc. There is a rule that this representation must follow. For example, if there's smoke, there's fire, right? That is an objective rule. That is an objective relationship because the rule determines us to put things in a certain sequence of events rather than being, like, bound to our own, like, arbitrary whims or whatever.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
So
Don't
he's
don't
saying that this just is the distinction between an objective representation and one which is not objective.
Exactly. It's built into what's already happening. We don't need to go looking for some external representation, that because, like Pat said, that would just raise the question for that. It's like, okay, well,
It almost makes me wonder why he didn't bring up the phenomenon Newman, a distinction here again. Like, this is also the distinction, in essence, between an illusion and an objective
oh,
phenomenon.
because we're back in the book before phenomena noumena.
Right. Okay. Well, I mean, he's been using it still.
I don't think
Um.
so. I think we have.
Well. Well, he introduces it in, like, the introduction. Anyway,
Oh, well.
what makes an appearance not merely an appearance but an objective appearance is this fixity, this boundedness to rules. So the
Yep.
world is not merely illusion because it operates in a rule-oriented way.
Facts don't care about your feelings, but they care about your rules.
Yeah, 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 exactly.
uh, all right, I think you are up next, right?
I guess I am. Okay. In the synthesis of the appearances, the manifold representations Are we just using manifold as an adjective again now? I guess we are. Okay,
Yeah, I don't
sorry.
think he means. Yeah, I think you're supposed to take that in the context. Like we're not
Like,
in the we're not in the
not in the
aesthetic.
Kantian sense.
What's that?
Like the many representations. I'm so used to the manifold being a noun at this point, but it can't be a noun in this sentence grammatically. It has to be an adjective.
Well, actually, I don't know because that is what happens to the manifold. It gets synthesized by the schematism.
Right, and the synthesis of the appearances, but like just grammatically, manifold representations, it's being used as an adjective.
Uh, I guess maybe the representations of the manifold.
I don't think so. I think manifold is in many. Okay, well, whatever. I'm gonna read it.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess that would make sense because the many representations always follow one another.
Right, it's
I
an
think either
adjective.
way it could make. I mean, it means different things, but either way it makes. It means different things, but either way it makes sense given what he said.
I guess, but here's something he meant.
Well, guess we'll never get it. Fuck you, Kant. Or maybe
The
it's a translational thing. Bring out the
Maybe.
German.
Yeah. In the synthesis of the appearances, the manifold representations always follow one another. Now, by this means, no object at all is represented. Since through this sequence, which is common in all apprehensions, nothing is distinguished from anything else. But as soon as I perceive or anticipate that there is in this sequence a relation to the preceding state from which the representation follows in accordance with a rule, I represent something as an occurrence, or as something that happens, i.e., I cognize an object that I must place in time in a determinate position, which after the preceding state cannot be otherwise assigned to it. Thus, if I perceive that something happens, then the first thing that is contained in this representation is that something proceeds, for it is this just for it is just in relation to this that the appearance requires its temporal relation, that namely of existing after a preceding time, which it did not. What? Which it did not what?
uh, uh, proceeds.
In which it did not. Of existing in a preceding time,
Oh,
existing
existing.
after a preceding time, in which it did not. Okay, I understand. But that can only acquire its determinate temporal position in this relation through something being presupposed in the preceding state on which it always follows, i.e., follows in accordance with a rule from which it results first that I cannot reverse the series and place what happens prior to that which follows, and second, that if the state that precedes is posited, then this determinate occurrence inevitably and necessarily follows. Thereby does it come about that there is an order among our representations in which the present one, insofar as it has come to be, points to some preceding state as correlate. To be sure, still undetermined, if this event that is given, which is what?
Of this
Of this
event.
event which is given, which is, however, determinately related to the latter as its consequence and necessarily connected with it in a temporal series. We're really just repeating
I was gonna
ourselves
say, was
a lot
anything
at this
said
point.
for that for all of that chunky ass paragraph? Was anything new
There's
said?
nothing. I think we need to bring out the sound boy.
Yeah, I was getting. I was.
I think you
Oh, it's
were
here.
trying to hit the word limit.
Yeah.
We're way over the word limit. Why does he keep putting in more words to try to hit the word limit? I don't understand.
Bruh.
I don't know what other sounds. Bruh doesn't feel
Bruh.
satisfactory. I don't know.
No. It's the yeah, that feels appropriate actually.
Oh,
That
also
feels
this one's good.
What the
Oh no, not that one.
Oh my god.
This one.
Bro.
Yeah, that one.
Man, what the fuck, man? Get your ass
Yeah,
on,
who
man.
invited this?
You get your goddamn
Who invited this
ass.
paragraph into my critique of pure reason? It's the
Who
same
did
fucking
invite
shit.
this paragraph into my critique of pure reason? This is just a waste of time. It's already covered. All right,
Damn.
let's keep going.
Now, if it is a necessary law of our sensibility, thus a formal condition of all perceptions, that the preceding time necessarily determines the following time, in that I cannot arrive at the following time except by passing through the preceding one, then it is also an indispensable law of the empirical representation of the temporal series that the appearances of the past time determine every existence in the following time, and that these, as occurrences, do not take place except insofar as the former determined their existence in time. I establish it in accordance with a rule, for only in the appearances can we empirically cognize this continuity in the connection of times. Okay, I think I read that way too fast because I thought it was going to be more repeat. And it might
I
be,
agree
but
with you.
hold on.
I
Okay.
was like, he's reading this really fast. I hope
Sorry,
he
yeah, I thought it was
understands
going to be
what
more repeat, and then I realized as I was reading that it's fucking could be new. Although at the end it sounds like it's okay. Hold on. Now, if it is a necessary law of our sensibility, thus a formal condition of all perceptions. Okay, that makes sense to me. That's why I started reading kind of fast. I think that the preceding time necessarily determines the following time. Yep. In that I cannot arrive at the following time except by passing through the preceding one. Yep, that is the law. Yep. Then it is also an indispensable. Okay, this might be the new thing. Okay, so if that is the case, which Kant has made clear it is, then it is also an indispensable law of the empirical representation of the temporal series that the appearances of the past time determine every existence in the following time. Okay, this is just kind of and that these as occurrences do not take place except insofar as the former determine their existence in time, i.e. establish it in accordance with. This is just fucking repeat. I got duped. I got fucking duped. I was right the first time.
Look, you have to read it. Because
I
you
do.
can't know if he's just repeating himself or not unless you listen.
I do, but with all these,
Unfortunately.
okay, but to be fair, with the bolding, with like the slightly different wording, like I got literally fucking edged. I'm like, okay, wait, I'm missing something here. Nope.
Did you know that from one past, only one future could follow? Did you know that the past determines the future?
Holy moly.
90s internet ad like takes place, like dives into a computer. The past determines the future.
Some like synth pop 80s type. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yep.
Okay, so
Okay.
let's see if we have a new paragraph here.
I'm gonna be pissed if you get the new paragraph. I mean, to be fair, you just did get the huge repeat. Never mind. Okay, you also deserve a new one. All right, go ahead.
I can have a little new philosophy content as a treat. Understanding belongs to all experience and its possibility. And the first thing that it does for this is not to make the representation of the objects distinct, but rather to make the representation of an object possible at all.
So far, you get repeat.
Hey, that's not a repeat. That's
no. I mean, that's the. I mean, that's not direct repeat of what we just read, but it's kind of the argument of the transcendental logic.
Okay, well. Now this happens through conferring temporal order on all the appearances and their existence by assigning to each of these, as a consequence, a place and time determined a priori in regard to the preceding appearances, without which it would not agree with time itself, which determines the position of all its parts a priori. Now this determination of position cannot be borrowed in relation appearances to absolute time, for that is not an object of perception, but conversely the appearances themselves must determine their positions in time for each other and make this determination in the necessary. That, i.e., that which follows or happens must succeed that which is contained in the previous state in accordance with the general rule, from which arises a series of appearances in which, by means of the understanding, the very same order and constant connection in the series of possible perceptions is produced and made necessary would be encountered a priori in the form of inner experience time, in which all perceptions would have to have their place. Please hit the
Shut the fuck up. Well, hold on, wait. Can we need a shut the fuck up button. I'm sorry. Oh yeah, that's great.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Let's go. I show speed.
Have you ever seen Xavier Renegade Angel?
Oh yeah, yeah, yep. You want to add a
Are
sound
you
from that?
so dumb? You're so dumb that
Xavier Renegade
when
Penile?
God was passing out insight, you thought that he said that when God was passing out holy prophets, you thought he said leaky faucets because your mind has diarrhea of the mouth faucet.
Xavier Penile?
It's a bit in Xavier Renegade Angel where the guy ultimately comes around to the point that the guy has diarrhea of the mouth, but he does it by having diarrhea of the mouth. That's all.
Okay, I've never seen that. Is it a TV show?
Yes.
It was a
It's an
TV
older
show.
TV show.
Now I think you
Oh,
have to
was
get
on-
it on the internet.
You watch it on YouTube these days. It's the most surreal, chaotic, transgressive, weird, funny. It's got like a guy who's from California, and he's very, very from California. He's so from California that he's a buffalo with a snake arm. That's actually the best way I could explain it, I think.
It's very funny. I recommend it. Yep.
I do recommend it.
Absurdist humor, not in like the deep cringe sense, in like the opposite sense. It's like it literally he just walks around and like does shit, and it's hilarious.
Anyway, all of that is to say that Kant has a bit of diarrhea of the pen here.
Yeah, which isn't like a surprise, but it hasn't been this bad in a while, so that sucks.
So let's see if this one is new.
And it doesn't even look like this one's gonna get better. So I'm just
No, I doubt it, but go
fuck
ahead.
me,
try
dude.
it.
All right, here we go. That something happens, therefore, is a perception that belongs to a possible experience. Chud's seething. I was hoping that would land.
What is what?
Let me
Nothing ever happens.
pull it up. It seems relevant. Yep. Asymptote of happening. Yeah.
I don't quite know what a chud in this case means.
So
it's so hard to explain.
if you're
Okay,
if you're having a perception, something's happened. Actually, honestly, we can explain it in like Hume terms, I guess, right? It's like Hume would think that nothing ever actually happens, right? It's all just like you're making it up. Like nothing.
well, I don't think he thought of that, but I think that is the implication of what he's saying.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
just
yeah.
didn't realize. I'm pretty sure he says that things happen. In fact, I know he does. He says that we
Okay.
experience one thing and then another thing. So he acknowledges a sequence of events. He's not Parmenides.
Okay. It's honestly been years since I've read Hume. I should do that again.
But I think he just doesn't realize that for something to happen and then something else to happen for time to
Yeah,
happen,
the objectivity's already there. Yeah.
the objectivity is already built into it because otherwise we couldn't determine which way time is going.
Yep. Okay, well that's a good way to.
But yeah, the guy who genuinely thinks that nothing ever happens, that's Parmenides. He's the ultimate chud.
Okay. So if you're having an experience with that involves perception, sorry chuds, something happens, which becomes actual if I regard this the position of that appearance as determined in time. Thus, if I regard it as an object that can always be found in the connection of perceptions in accordance with the rule.
Wow. Oh my god. Guys, I think our perceptions. I'm getting this crazy idea. What if our perceptions have to be determined to go in a certain sequence according to like a rule or something?
But dude, is that rule objective or is it just subjective?
No, I think it's objective, dude.
Whoa!
Illuminati confirmed.
Yeah, wait, where is it? Fuck, I'm blind.
When something happens.
Yeah. Oh my god. Did I mention this is the informal yet comprehensive yet informal? Um,
Okay,
okay.
we're halfway through this paragraph. Let's
This rule for determining something with respect to its temporal sequence, however, uh, is that in which precedes. The condition is to be encountered under which the occurrence always, i.e., necessarily, follows. Thus, the principle of sufficient reason, okay, maybe something new here, is the ground of all possible experience, namely the objective cognition of appearances with regard to their relation and success of time.
only one of the fourfold root of the principle of sufficient reason.
Yeah.
That every effect has its cause. Every effect in time has its cause. But I mean,
Yes. Yes.
the only difference from what he said earlier is he said, "And this is the principle of sufficient."
Yeah, which is actually, I mean, I was gonna actually bring up pretty much. I'm pretty. It's been a while since I've read Schopenhauer, and I haven't read Fourfold Root, sadly. But I think based on what you've told me about it, this actually is his point. Is that this is actually the insight that is it like attributed to Schopenhauer, and I think Schopenhauer definitely deserves that in terms of like at least this one of the four. I think he made it super explicit, but Kant is sort of implicitly saying what Schopenhauer's saying that Pat told me that Schopenhauer said, which is that the principle of sufficient reason for Kant is here works one way in specific causality as an empirical rule, and differently in other ways. And we're gonna actually see that way in the we have already a little bit, I think, in the transcendental dialectic when we try to take this above this principle, that go above experience, but so to speak. But this is the principle of sufficient reason within experience, within phenomena. So okay, that's cool. Something happened in the terms of the content, small, but something happened. Any other words? All right. Who just read? Was that you, Pat?
Who just read? Me. Yeah, no, you, the other one. I'm lost in the sea of nothing. Nothing is happening right now.
That's true.
He's
Someone
he's disproving his own. He's disproving his own thesis.
have you not seen this new law that actually guides all of our judgments
Yeah, yeah. First of
in
all,
2 week
nothing ever happened.
intervals?
Second of all, progress towards a major happening shall always increase closer to, but never reach 100%. At which point something would happen. But by the first law, nothing ever happens.
Yeah,
That's
yep. So someone should write the critique of something happening, and this needs to
okay. Let's read.
uh
Okay. The
the
ground of the proof of
yeah.
this proposition, however, rests solely on the following moments. To all empirical cognition, there belongs the synthesis of the manifold through the imagination, which is always successive, but the representations always follow each other in it. But the order of the sequence that must proceed and what must follow is not determined in the imagination at all. Ah, and there the sequence of successive representations can be taken backwards just as well as forwards. But if the synthesis is a synthesis of apprehension of the manifold of a given appearance, then the order in the object is determined, or so to speak more precisely, there is therein an order of the subjective synthesis that determines an order, in accordance with which something would necessarily have to proceed, and if this is posited, the other would necessarily have to follow. If, therefore, my perception is to contain the cognition of an occurrence, namely something that actually happens, then it must be an empirical judgment in which one thinks that the sequence is determined, i.e., it presupposes another appearance in time which follows it necessarily or accordance with a rule. Contrariwise, if I were to posit that which precedes and the occurrence did not follow it necessarily, then I would still have to hold it to only be a subjective play of my imaginings, and if I still represented something objected by it, I would have to call it a mere dream. Thus, the relation of appearances as possible perceptions in accordance with which the existence of that which succeeds what happens is determined in time necessarily and in accordance with a rule by something that precedes it. Consequently, the relation of cause and effect is a condition of the objective validity of our with regard to the series of perceptions, thus of their empirical truth, and therefore of experience. Hence, the principle of causal relation in the sequence of appearances is valid for all objects of experience under the conditions of succession, since it is itself the ground of the possibility of such an experience.
Um,
So I think he's mostly clarifying
I
here,
was
and
gonna
I
say I
actually
don't think
don't
it's
think
repetition, so I don't just want to
I
like
don't.
skip
Yeah, I
past
don't
it,
think it
but
is
I also
repetition.
don't really know what else to say that hasn't been said.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I would say that he does clarify here the role of the imagination and the distinction
Yeah,
between an
that's good.
imaginative representation and an objective one. Because we just said, oh, you know, I can't imagine. I really like the wood burning example because there's no counter examples, right?
Yeah.
There are counter examples for most of the other things. So I can't imagine wood being like, I can't imagine I can imagine wood being unburned, right? We can show it. You can have a video and you can just play it backwards, right? You have
Mhm.
YouTube. All these things exist. But how is it that we're saying, oh, time has to flow in one way? Because it's not merely an imaginative play we're talking about. We're talking about actually perceiving that time actually moves in this direction. And that is not an act of the imagination, it's an act of the apprehension. It's an act of the understanding. And for us to actually believe that something happens like later than something else, we do need to presuppose the causal sequence. And so this is how we know that we're dealing with an objective sequence of past to future rather than just like an imaginative play. Because it's not as if, oh, it's impossible to imagine time going the other way. It is possible. It's possible to represent time going the other way. But we can't we can't apprehend it. We can't believe it. We can't make it make sense.
Yeah. Right. In experience, which has been synthesized in the manifold. My question is, maybe not question, just sort of maybe like strange pondering that has to do, I guess, more with how Kant employs the active passive distinction, which I know is, already kind of confusing, especially in like the literature. But like maybe this is somewhere where it could come up. Because like you said, it's a synthesis of apprehension, but it requires the understanding. Whereas the way I was thinking it, how Kant presented it, and maybe I just need to go back and read the section on the imagination because I don't remember exactly. I think he might touch on this, but something that could be a little confusing is that the imagination, right, like you said, isn't bound to an objective rule of time. That comes in when we introduce, like I was saying before, like the intuitions, right? Time and space, and
Well,
time.
it's mainly space.
What's that?
It's mainly space. His point is we use the imagination for mathematical relations rather than dynamical ones.
Right, but time does time not flow in one way in the intuition of time?
No,
Oh, okay.
no. That's the whole point. Is time only flows in one direction because we understand it to flow in one direction.
But it's the synthesis of apprehension in the manifold of given appearance. So wouldn't that be more of
I
like a
don't think
passive
apprehension.
receiving? I guess it would be of space,
No, I
like you
think
said. But
apprehension is a putting together. I think apprehension is a.
no, I think that's comprehension. Is that not? Like
I
apprehension,
think the
doesn't
way
that
he's
isn't that
using it.
passive?
I don't think the way he's using it here in this paragraph.
Hmm.
I'm not saying I remember. I'm not saying I remember how he uses apprehension in all contexts, but
Okay.
the way he's using it in this context strongly tells me that he's talking about an active process of the understanding. And we see that it's an act of the understanding, right? Doesn't he literally say that in here?
Well, the imagination is also an active process, though. So,
Yeah, I think
so I'd
that's true,
imagine
but
to distinguish it, you would have to be given something passively, like you said, space.
well, I think the difference between imagination and apprehension is that imagination represents the mathematically possible, whereas apprehension represents the dynamic
Right,
of the
it's a
action.
dynamical principle. I just thought that in that dynamism, or that dynamical nature, there would be some like the cause of that would be something like passive. It's like
Well,
something being
yeah, it
given.
requires intuition, and it
Yeah.
requires. I mean, I guess it is a given fact that time does go in one direction, but as to what falls where in that flow, and therefore actually, determining, oh, you know, this happened, then this happened, then this happened, that has to be actively apprehended.
Right, right, right. Okay.
And I think that's like his point. I think he's saying like I think he's saying like memory wouldn't even work
No,
without
yeah, he's definitely saying that. It's just yeah. Hmm.
without like we don't passively remember, oh, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. No, we have like a store of impressions, I guess, and then we put them together by apprehending them in a certain order in accordance with objective rules.
Yeah. Um Okay, yep, no, that makes sense. I was just wondering what the role of
Yippee! He's saying things.
Yeah, true. Something happened. Goodbye,
Something happened.
Chud.
Give me a yippee.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Wait, give
Yep,
me
I
a
forgot we
yippee.
hit. Yep. Oh yeah,
Oh yeah, we're so back.
we are. It was so over and we're so back. Um Good. Okay. How much more of this do we have?
Oh my god, so much of it could have been cut out.
Fuck. All right. Let's just go. Maybe he'll repeat himself more and we can just maybe at that point we just
Why?
won't even comment. We'll just know it's just to fuck. Wait, now I lost her. Hold on.
You're back too far, bro.
Oh, I am. Okay. I was like I lost her.
Okay,
This is close. This is where we were. Okay.
stop. This
Yep.
is the one.
Here, however, there is a reservation that must be raised. The principle of causal connection among appearances is, in our formula, limited to the succession of them, although in the use of this principle, it turns out that it also applies to their accompaniment. And cause and effect can be Hold on, wait, I read that. I went through that too quickly. In a formula limited to the succession of them, although in the use of this principle, it turns out it also applies to their accompaniment. Oh, I think he's just about to introduce the next section. I mean, we're quite a ways away, so I don't know why, but right, okay. E.g., okay. Well, here's an example too to clarify. There is a warmth in a room that is not to be encountered in the outside air. Right, right. Okay, so multiple things can happen at the same time.
I don't think that's true. No, he's saying that like, oh, cause and effect could happen at the exact same time. I don't think that's true. Like in his example, it's not true. He says, e.g., in a room that is not to be encountered on the outside, warmth. The room is warm. The air isn't warm. You look around, you find a heated stove. But that's not simultaneity. The stove warmed up, and that caused the atoms of the air to speed up, and then there's heat. What you're talking, it's hot because of the residual heat from the stove burning in the past. Like, so that isn't a good example, and I don't think there is a
Wait,
good
hold on. I'm
example at
confused as
all.
to why I have a problem with it. I can if it's winter time and I like heat up a stove. What's wrong with that?
It doesn't. No, well, okay, it's wintertime. I heat up the stove to heat up my room. Sure. Does the stove instantly, when I turn the heat on, does it instantly become the temperature of the stove? No, time
Wait.
has to pass.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But what's the? It's still cold outside. All the meanwhile. This is
No, but
point.
that's not what he's talking about. No, his
No,
point
it is.
is
Yeah, it's not to be
no,
counted in
no,
the outside air. Like there are causal
no.
relations outside.
Read before. Here, however, there's a reservation that must be raised. There's a reservation to what he's saying. The principle of causal connection among appearances is, in our formula, limited to the succession of them.
Yeah.
Meaning, a causal connection only happens when there's cause and then later an effect. Although, in the use of this principle, it can turn out that it applies to their accompaniment, and cause and effect can be simultaneous, meaning cause and effect happening at the same time. Then he
Yeah,
gives
that
an
doesn't
example.
change anything. I mean, maybe we're just interpreting his example differently. I'm not. I don't think it's about the time it takes for
It is.
the
Yes,
stove.
it is. Because he
Oh wait, hold on,
literally
wait. I
says
just didn't finish
cause
reading.
and
Hang on.
effect can be.
Now this as the cause is simultaneous with its effect, the warmth of the chamber. Oh yeah, okay, no. This Bruh. Okay.
Okay.
I thought he was saying something like real, and then he just okay. Fuck.
No,
Well,
no, he's saying that like the heat from the stove causes the warm room. This is simultaneous causation.
yeah, bro. We
No,
were
it
literally just
isn't.
that's literally you two poop logic, bro. That's literally just what you were arguing against. Okay.
Right,
Uh.
but I'm saying no, 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 it isn't.
Well, yeah.
For
This is a shit
reasons
example.
you see.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and I think maybe he thinks that it's a shit example, but there's a good example. There isn't. There is no good example of this. That this never happens. There was never a cause that's simultaneous with the effect. Maybe that's what he's gonna say. In which case, I'll just be like,
I'm trying to think of
that's pretty
anything
obvious.
that could like possibly, even outside
No,
of like our typical fun, well, isn't aren't there some yeah, I mean instant like even at like the quantum level,
the
right?
closest
Instant.
people do is like quantum entanglement, supposedly messing with the laws of cause and effect. But we don't know that that's a causal relationship.
Yeah, I'm
In
trying to
fact,
think of
it's
anything that
it's
could happen
phrased
like
as if it's not
instantaneously.
a causal relationship. It's phrased as if, oh, this state only can be A when this other state is B, and vice versa. But that doesn't mean that the two are like in a direct causal relationship with each other.
Yeah.
Could be
Okay.
something else.
Well.
But I think probably the example people might use at the time is light. But
Yeah.
guess what? Light does have a speed, in fact. So
Get fucked.
get fucked. Yeah, exactly.
To be fair, that is kind of like a mind blowing like there's a reason Einstein is fucking and like
Well, yeah, it's
glazed
true.
for that.
However, if you pay attention to the law of cause and effect, it is one of those things where like you discover it in science and then you realize, oh no, wait, it had to be like logically. Like
Well, I think
evolution.
Kant is saying that like this could well I guess yeah. Kant for some reason thinks this doesn't contradict his own law, but
I
it
don't
kind of
know.
does.
Maybe he's just saying that like the apparent examples are not real examples, which to me is obvious, and I pointed it out. So maybe he's just pointing out what I consider to be obvious, and it's not obvious to
Oh, well
some
he's
people.
saying there's a reservation
Or
that must be
maybe he's
raised.
just yeah,
Maybe he's gonna take down this reservation. I don't know.
right. Maybe he's gonna take it down and point out like do what I just did, or
Hmm.
maybe he thinks it's a genuine reservation, in which case, bruh. So let's keep going.
I have a feeling he's gonna get shit on so hard in like 2 minutes, but let's see. Okay, the majority of efficient causes in nature are simultaneous with their. The majority? Okay, what the
Bruh,
fuck? Okay,
bruh.
I gave Kant 2 minutes. It was fucking like 2 seconds. Ugh, gross.
The
Okay.
majority of efficient causes in nature are simultaneous with their effect.
What the fuck, man? Okay, all right.
Oh, what the hell?
Yeah.
Oh, hell no! Oh my god, bro. What the hell? Oh my god, no way.
No way.
No way.
And the temporal sequence of the latter is occasioned only by the fact that cause cannot achieve its
Effect in one
time. Wait,
instant.
yeah, it cannot achieve its yeah, but in the instant in which the effect first arises, it is always simultaneous with the causality
Causality of its
cause. Since if the cause had
This is like
ceased,
scholasticism right now.
yeah, since if the cause had ceased to be an instant before, then the effect would never have arisen? I'm so lost. Here one
There's
must
like,
know.
no, there's like this magic thing called causality in the cause, and like the causality of the cause is always at the same time. It's simultaneous with the, I guess, the effectality of the effect. But normally, no, dude, this is bad. This is really bad. But I think what he's saying here is let's say smoke fire. Let's say a fire pit can keep smoking even after the apparent fire has disappeared. But the causality of the fire has not disappeared, even though the object fire has disappeared. I know there's all kinds of problems with that. That's because there's all kinds of problems with the theory.
Wait, hold on. Well, I mean that makes sense to me given that this is a law.
Okay, let's do a different example. Let's say a billiard ball. Okay, so a billiard ball hits another billiard ball. Let's do that one.
Yep.
When they hit, they're only together for an instant, but the causality of billiard ball A that did the hitting lingers in billiard ball B as inertia. So that means that the causality always has to be present at the same moment that the effectuality is present, even though the two objects that we label
Well,
as
yeah, as a
causal
law, as a law of cause and effect, this is like an eternal law of
okay, but
possible.
his point about that is that causality is always instantaneous with effectuality. Um,
Oh,
but that's not true because it's not instantaneous. It's at the moment that it hits. It's momentary. It's not
well,
simultaneous. It's
logically, the law still has to apply for the whole sequence of events to be carried out.
I know, but that's not the point.
Oh, well,
The
that's the
point he's
point I'm
talking
taking.
about,
I was
the point he's talking about is simultaneity, and I think the point is that the simultaneity, the causality is simultaneous with the effectuality, but it's not just logically because okay, I'll give it like a literal. I'll make the billiards example literally physical. So what happens is the inertia of ball A becomes the inertia of ball B, right?
yeah.
Okay, so when the inertia of ball A, let's say it's 100, 100 watts, I don't know, oranges. So when the inertia of ball A is 100, the effectuality, which is the inertia of ball B, is it starts out at 0. Then
It
the
goes up to
inertia
100.
of goes from like 90 to 10,
Oh, okay.
let's say, right? At 90, and then it's like 10 in the other one, if that makes sense. My point is, we
Oh, that
don't
doesn't
get
perfectly carry
100.
over.
Yeah. My point is, we don't get 100 inertia in
Uh,
ball A and also an increase of inertia in ball B at the same time. Kant
oh,
seems to
is
be
that what
saying
Kant
that
is
it
saying?
does. Yes, he
Oh,
does. Which directly violates his own rule.
okay.
He seems to be saying that like there's like an instant where it all happens at the same time. But there is no case in which that actually happens in real life, and it also violates your rule.
Uh, the temporal sequence of the latter is occasioned only by the fact that the cause cannot achieve its
Its
effect.
entire effect in one instance.
But
So he seems to be
but
saying that the natural thing is for cause and effect to be simultaneous, which violates the
no,
entire
isn't that what
order.
he's not? Well, that's what he says in the
No.
first half of this thing. Uh, but then after this comma, he's like goes back on it, and then he says cannot achieve its entire effect in one instant.
Yeah, but he's saying the majority are simultaneous with the effect, and temporal
Yeah, I
sequences.
just don't understand what he's saying here, like internally. Like it seems like he's saying one thing in the first half, and then he goes
I
back on.
just I think we're trying to make something sense of something that fundamentally is not going to make sense at the end of it,
All right,
because
I'll just
he's
keep
trying to
reading
solve
it.
a non because he's trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist.
Okay, but in the instant in which the effect first arises, it is always simultaneous with the causality of its cause. Since if the cause had ceased to be an instant before, then the effect would never have arisen. Right? We just talked about that. Here
Well,
one
this is
must
just Parmenides' problem.
here one must note that it is the order of time and not its lapse that is taken into account of. The relation remains even if no time has elapsed. What? Okay. The time between the causality of the cause and its immediate effect can be vanishing, and they can therefore be simultaneous, but the temporal relation of the one to the other still remains determinable. If I consider a ball that lies on a stuffed pillow and makes a dent in it as a cause, it is Okay, yeah, wrong. Okay.
That's also false.
Yep,
Yeah, it's
yep.
just
Okay,
wrong.
I'm seeing it now. Yeah. Yet I
It's
still
wrong
distinguish the two by means of the temporal relation. Yeah, this is what's confusing me because then he adds a sentence like this. Yeah, because that's actually how it
because
works,
it doesn't
Kant.
make sense. Because he's trying to make like his theory like it's scholastic logic chopping. He's trying to manipulate language so that his theory accommodates a reality which is inconvenient for it. However, said reality is not a reality.
Yeah.
It's fake. It's not what actually happens. For if I lay a pillow on the ball, the dent follows its previously smooth shape. But
Right,
if for
which is what he
whatever
just
reason,
said, because this whole thing relies on the temporal sequence. Like
yeah,
that's what this is
unreal.
built on. It's
Well,
not a built
I mean,
on
his
some.
idea is like, oh, the ball causes the pillow to drop, but that happens at the same time. But that's not true. If you slow down a ball, the pillow will gradually dent.
Yeah,
Why? Because the force of gravity acting on the pillow will slowly cause a dent in the pillow. So the issue is just non-existent if you just thought about like the physical world for a second. The only case in which I could see him being like, "Oh, this appears to be instantaneous," is light, because that appears to be instantaneous. I guess sound also appeared to be instantaneous at the time. But now, of course, we do know that light and sound both have speeds. It's just only logical to
just
assume that
very
there
fast
is
speeds. Yep.
no instantaneous causation. That's a chimera. It doesn't exist. He's trying to like chop up some logic to defend his position, but he doesn't need to because it simply doesn't happen ever.
And I'm just shocked that he's not using like light or sound. He's using a fucking pillow on a
He's
ball.
really bad with examples. He used as an example
Oh
the
my
cause
god,
cannot
this is like the
the
worst.
effect
This is like the
up
worst of
and
Kant.
downstream in a river, as if you cannot paddle upstream in a river. Like he's
Fuck me.
really bad
Alright.
with examples.
Yeah, it's the perfect storm. Never show a person who says Kant is a genius page 312 of the Paul Guyer translation of the Critique of Pure Reason. This is okay. For if I lay, let me just finish it for comprehensive sake. For if I lay the ball on the pillow, the dent follows its previously smooth shape. But if for whatever reason the pillow has a dent, a leaden ball does not follow it. What?
Don't worry about it, man. It's not worth your time anymore.
All right. You get the next one.
Here we go. The
Think we're almost
temporal
done.
sequence is accordingly the only empirical criterion of the effect in relation to the causality of the cause that precedes it. The glass is both the cause of the rising of the water above its horizontal plane, though both in appearances are simultaneous. For as soon as I draw the water into the glass from a larger vessel, something follows, namely the alteration of the horizontal state which the water had here to a concave state that it assumes in the glass. All right, keep going.
This causality leads to the concept of action, to the concept of force, and thereby to the concept of substance. Wait, what? This causality leads to the concept of action. Oh, I guess like physical, like Newtonian.
I think
action.
the idea is that if there is change, then there must be a substance which is changed.
Yeah, that was his first argument in the first axiom, analogy. I don't remember. There's also a footnote, but do we want to do? Should I crack open my physical copy, or do we just want to keep going?
Let's not do the footnote.
Okay. Since I will not crowd my critical what, bro? You already have. All right, whatever. Which concerns solely the sources of synthetic a priori cognition, with the analyses that address merely the elucidation, not the amplification of my concepts. Shitty ass elucidation, but okay. I leave the detailed discussion of these concepts to a future system of pure reason, especially since one can already find such an analysis in rich measure, even in the familiar textbooks of this sort. Yet I cannot leave untouched the empirical criterion of a substance, insofar as it seems to manifest itself better and more readily through action than through the persistence of the appearance. What? Okay. To my understanding, he's saying. I mean, the thing that really makes sense to me is the last sentence where he's saying, the you can more readily see the concept of substance through change. Ironically, perhaps.
Right. Well, I think he's going to clarify. I remember not being very satisfied at all with his explanation of what substance is. So
Right. I
think
remember
he's
we were
gonna
going over that
clarify
last time, but
I think he's going to clarify that. So I'm eager to hear why.
no, I don't think he is. I think I mean, he had a whole section on it. I mean, maybe he will, but.
Well, that seems to be what he's saying he's doing.
Well, no, I think he's saying that like he's gonna not do that. He's not gonna crowd his critical project.
With an elucidation of concept. Yet I cannot leave unnoticed the imperial criterion of a substance. So he's going to give us the empirical criterion of a substance.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, then, do you want to take this?
Oh, yes, I guess I do. Um, where there is action, consequently activity and force, there is also substance. And in this alone must be the seat of this fruitful source of appearances be sought. That is quite well said. Okay. Okay, just
Wow.
patting
Good
himself on
job,
the back.
Kant.
Like,
Wow.
wow. That is quite. Thanks, Kant. I couldn't have done it without you. That is quite well said. But if one would explain what one understands by substance, and in doing so avoid a vicious circle, then the question is not so easily answered. For how will one infer directly from the action to the persistence of that which acts, which is yet such an essential and singular characteristic of the substance, or phenomenon? Yet, given what we have already said, the solution of the question is not subject to such a difficulty. Though after the usual fashion, proceeding merely analytically with its concepts, it would be entirely insoluble. Action already signifies the relation of the subject of causality to the effect. Now, since all effect consists in that which happens, consequently in the changeable, which indicates a succession in time, the ultimate subject of the changeable is therefore that which persists, as the substratum of everything that changes, i.e., the substance. For according to the principle of causality, actions are always the primary ground of change of appearances, and therefore cannot lie in the subject that itself changes, since otherwise further actions and another subject which determines this change would be required. Now, on this account, action as a sufficient empirical criterion proves substantiality without it being necessary for me to first seek out its persistence, though through compared perceptions, in a way which the completeness that is requisite for the quantity and strict universality of the concept could not be attained. For that the primary subject of the causality of all arising and perishing cannot itself arise and perish in the field of appearances is a certain inference which leads to the empirical necessity and persistence in existence. Consequently, the concept of a substance as appearance. Okay, so this really nails down. Remember we were discussing earlier what is substance for Kant?
Yep.
It's matter. It's matter. It's matter. He's talking about what is subject to change empirically. And empirically, a table is certainly subject to change. I could destroy the table. So what persists through it, he would say matter, because he's previously said that the law of conservation of matter is like a principle, metaphysical principle. So he's talking about matter. He's talking about the one substance being matter.
Hmm.
He is not talking about you are a substance, a table is a substance, a person is a substance. He is talking about matter. Because he's talking about that which is that which persists despite all empirical changes. And empirically speaking, it is certainly the case that if I burn the piece of wood, then there isn't a piece of wood anymore. So what is there still? Matter.
I thought he was just saying that. I thought this was a long elaboration on what he already said, which is just, which I still can conceive of taking away what I originally said. It's if the table changes, right? If you burn the table, like for something to have been burned, a table had to be there.
But no, it's not a table that had to be there. It is matter that had to be there. The point is that it persists through all changes. And if there is no substance anymore, then it's not a substance because it's no longer that which persists.
Well, it's the substratum of everything that
The substratum of
changes.
everything that changes is matter, according to Kant, anyway.
Well, he never says matter. I just
Right.
I would
He
think it.
never says
What?
that's true. He does, in fact, never say matter. Although he says that the quantity of matter never changes in the empirical world. And he says that that which doesn't change, like he says, matter
Right,
does
but
not
that's a
change.
quantitative. Like, how do you know he's talking quantitatively here?
How do I know he's talking quantitative?
Like, things can qualitatively change.
Well, that's his point, is that it does qualitatively change. What is constant is the
So how does that? How do you get matter from that?
because the one thing he says remains constant in all appearances is matter. And now he says that that which persists and remains constant despite all changes in appearances is substance. So if X equals substance and Y equals matter and X equals Y, then substance equals matter.
Well, I just don't know because that seems.
Well, that's what Schopenhauer says, and he says
No, I know that, but
it's not only what Schopenhauer says; it's what Schopenhauer says that Kant says and was afraid to say for political reasons.
okay. Well, I mean that answers one question, but I mean it's so I don't. Sorry, I'm trying to think of a way to like formulate my like why this doesn't make like 100. Like I can see the argument and I understand it. It's not that. It's just that I'm like detecting a slight what could be a hole, and that and I think that okay. How about this? There like he says when describing matter, right? That it is what like what you're saying, right? It's what
Says this of
persists
matter
throughout.
that it does that it the quantity of matter persists through all changes.
Right, but that's not the like what excludes something else from doing that. He never
Well,
says that's the only thing.
that's true. However, it's hard to think of an alternate example, and
Well,
I think
substance
that
as not like why does substance have to be something else? Like I think substance as identity sort of makes more sense here.
substance as substance is substance is substance, but still, there's only one of them.
No, I don't think so. Right?
Definitely yes, because if you consider any given empirical appearance, it is capable of changing. Give me a counterexample.
Right. No, but that's the point though.
But it's capable of being eradicated, unless it's this like gives like you're saying table could be
Yeah,
a
yeah, it's right. It's there's not a physical substance, but I can recall it in my memory and so, like I need to, right? To make that claim. Is that
but that's purely subjective though.
no, just like I need the rule of causality to say that like
Talk about it the other way. Talk about it the other way. If it's just wood in a tree, is it already the table objectively?
no, that's why Kant is saying to see
the
substance you
substance
need this
being.
rule of causality. What?
So there's a pine tree in front of me. Though I'll call it George. 20 years from now, George will be cut down and turned into a table. Is but it won't just be George. It'll be George and his neighbor pine tree Fred. Those two will be turned into a table. Are George and Fred, these two pine trees, already one substance?
No.
No. But when they become the table, they will be one substance?
No. It's just something
Okay, so
different.
then tables are not substances.
No, but no, but you can remember George and Fred, I think where you
So you're
said
saying George and Fred are the substances now?
well, in this example, because that's where you're like you. My point is, you can isolate anything and identify anything as like that's
That makes substance not an objective thing. That makes substance a subjective category that is applied.
right. But we need
to
it to
core property.
have it's a dynamical principle.
That's not what he's saying, though. That's not
That
what
is, it's
he
under
says.
is substance not under the, it's the one that came right before this under the dynamic.
But he's saying that substance is something objective.
Right, just like causality is something objective.
But it's clearly not objective for me to say, oh, if I take this lump of matter and decide that that is a substance, because there's no rule in accordance with I have to do that. It's arbitrary, therefore it's subjective and not objective, which would mean that substance is not an objective.
Well,
but a
to have an order of to have an order of apprehension, you need things to order.
Sure.
That is the substance, I think.
But
That's
those
what
are
I'm getting.
just subjective orders. They are ultimately arbitrary.
Right. Well,
These,
until you order them. That's why Kant is saying this. This
but
is
he's
like
saying
these
there's
two
such
are
a thing
essential
as an
for each other.
objective substance. And so for there to be an objective substance, it would have to be one that does not change objectively, which it is impossible to conceive of like it not persisting. And it has to be this way. And that could only be matter. The only thing that fits into the Kantian schema is matter.
Okay. Um. I'm not like I understand the argument, and I'm like kind of I just don't know if that's the but I think we've made our positions enough to be followed up with another point just to so we can get through.
Okay.
We're almost done. I think we only have like 2.5 pages. All right. Okay. If something happens, the mere arising, without regard to that which comes to be, is already in itself an object of investigation. It is already necessary to investigate the transition from the non-being of a state to this state, assuming that this state contained no quality in the appearance. The arising concerns, as was shown into section A, not the substance, for that does not arise, but its state. It is therefore not merely alteration and not an origination out of nothing. If this origination is regarded as the effect of a foreign cause, then it is called creation, for not for which can be admitted as an occurrence among the appearances, for its possibility alone would already undermine the unity of experience. Though if I consider all things not as phenomena, but rather as things in themselves and as objects of mere understanding, then, though they are substances, they can be regarded as dependent for their existence on a foreign cause, which, however, would introduce entirely new meanings for the words and would not apply to appearances as possible objects of experience. Basically,
I mean, the way he's using substances now, I can only conclude that he has no idea what he's talking
well, let's see. It is
about.
already necessary. Uh, but its state is therefore merely alter. Oh, he's basically saying nothing ever. We're back to nothing ever happens in a way. Uh, Nothing can really, uh, which cannot be admitted. Yeah, nothing can truly be created in experience, right? Everything is just an alteration. Um, of substance which is already there. If anything is convincing that substances matter, it's actually this paragraph.
Right, but then he said substances.
Well, okay, things made. Um, because it can't be created. It can't be created or destroyed. Yeah.
Yeah. Although with substances, he could potentially be talking about like atoms. The idea that they're like, it's likely.
Well,
that
I
they're
just don't
matter.
think it's something physical.
Oh, I think it's something physical. Because
It can't be. How can it? How this is? These are what these are. What we're talking about right now are the systematic representation of all. It's like saying causality is found in like a particle. Like that just makes no sense.
Well, he's saying, well, substantiality isn't the thing, but substance is a thing which persists over time. So when we're talking about physical, we're talking about a phenomenal thing.
Is he saying that exists though? That there is a like substance that is in. Like
Yeah,
I
he's saying
thought it, I
there's
was taking it like the
substance
reason
exists.
I was being so like
They're objective things. They're like physical things in the world.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
that has to be that. Don't we get that through substance?
Yeah. So substance, the physical thing in the world, and it's a thing that undergoes change or and is
Right, but that's my
eternal as
point. That's
persist.
why it's not like any specific. Like when you were saying matter, I thought you meant some like physical like particle or some like.
I do.
Oh, see, no, that doesn't make sense to me
He's an
though.
atomist. He's an atomist, is what I'm saying.
I just don't see because that again, that's like saying cause and effect could be an atom. Like that doesn't like make sense to me.
No, it isn't because it's a thing. Cause and effect are not things. They are.
Right, but there are causes and there are effects. Just like substance isn't a thing, but
But he
there are
does say that the cause is a
substances.
particular thing. He does say that causes are like particular things.
Bruh.
Like he says,
But
for example, that like a stove is a cause.
right, but causality is not like if you got rid of the stove, causality wouldn't go with it.
But it's not like causality. Not causality itself, but that particular causality.
Right, exactly.
It,
But that's what I'm saying. So substance is like this as well. Like there is
but it cannot be
substance.
like that for the exact same reason that if a genuine substance were to disappear, then it could not have been a genuine substance because the entire point of it is that it can't disappear.
Right.
So you
Well, yeah, this is basically just like empirical Spinozism in a way, because
yeah
like we were saying, Greg and or whatever the names of the twigs were, like those are expressions of this idea of substance.
yeah Fred and George.
Fred and George, those are expressions of
Called them
substance,
like you could say they are right.
manifestations.
Well, it seems like it would be logical to say that it's an expression or a manifestation of like the one substance, but then he uses substances in the plural. So the inference from that I've got is substances are maybe something like atoms that doesn't change despite the fact that like the things they're made of change. That seems to be like the only or
Well,
he's
I mean, he
agnostic
also
about
could
that.
have been misusing like
Well,
words,
either way we
which has
cut it,
happened.
whether it's atoms or it's one substance and it's like the underlying material of it's still matter.
No,
It's
well,
still
I just don't see how that could be like again, how does is it not I think it's just a rule. I think it's a rule. Like things persist. That is substance. It's
no.
persistence.
Substances are things. They are not a rule. There is a rule that for things to change, there must be substances, but substances themselves must be a thing, a noun,
Well,
not a.
we need a concept of persistence.
But it's not substance is not the concept of persistence. It is the thing which persists. Substances are things. He's pretty explicit about this.
Okay. Um I will reread the substance, but I mean even when I read that, I don't know. I will figure that out. um am I reading this paragraph?
I don't think so.
Okay, go ahead
All
then.
right. If something happens, the mere arising without regard to that which comes to be is already itself an. No, we just read that paragraph.
Oh,
Okay. Now, in general, how in general anything can be altered, how it is possible that upon a state in one point of time, an opposite could follow from the next, of this we have a priori not the least concept. For this acquaintance with actual forces is required, which can only be given empirically, e.g., acquaintance with moving forces, or, what comes to the same thing, with certain successive appearances as motions, which indicate such forces. But the form of such an alteration, the condition under which alone it, as the arising of another state, can occur, whatever the content, i.e., the state that is altered, might be. Consequently, the succession of the states itself, that which has happened, can still be considered a priori according to the law of causality and by the conditions of time. I think this is basically more of the same.
no, it is. It just I mean, I'm not going to go like too long on this, but like uh it's like the reason like this just gives another reason why I think substance isn't something like empirical because um
Well,
because of
atoms
this
aren't
first
empirical
what?
either. Atoms aren't empirical either.
Oh,
Yeah. Atoms are only empirical, like in a modern conception of atoms.
yeah, I thought
I'm
that's
not.
what you were saying. Oh, Jesus
No. I'm not
Christ.
talking
Okay,
about.
hold on.
I'm
Don't.
talking about original atomism. So,
Oh,
So atomism,
Fuck.
atomism from the ancient Greeks all the way to Locke, they posited that there were these invisible atoms which are indivisible and unchangeable, and all you can change is their configuration relative to each other, and they make up everything. So I understand now what you're saying with atomism, because the atoms we have can actually change, and you can actually find them. But
Yeah, that's what.
atomism,
Yeah, I was like, "There's no way substance can be atoms." I was, okay.
no, but atomism proper
Oh,
posits the atoms, but actually I think it's impossible. Although you could argue with me about this, it's impossible to prove empirically atomism proper, because if you could see it, then they would have to be too small.
no, I
Because
think we
atomism
entirely
proper,
agree. I think I just misunderstood. I thought you.
yeah, I'm not
Okay.
talking about like literally like what we call atoms in the physical
Yeah,
world.
I thought you meant like Niels Bohr shit. I was like, bro,
No,
there's
like
no way that's
hydrogen
substance.
is not a substance.
Like
No,
that makes
no,
no sense.
no. Like atomism in the old school way.
Okay,
Like,
jeez. All right. Like the last like 20 minutes I was arguing is void. That's funny as fuck. Okay.
yeah, okay, yeah. I was talking about philosophical atomism, not scientific atomism.
Okay. I think I
Here's the
disagree with
deal
you
with
about literally
atomism.
nothing. Okay. All right.
Here's the deal with atomism historically, right? So they posit that there are such things as atoms, indivisible, tiny units of matter that do not change except their configuration changes relative to each other, and that's all that is. There's atoms in the voids, and basically that continues all the way up through like chemistry. They discover, oh, hey, there are these tiny units of stuff that make different kinds of things. What should we call them? I know. I'll call them atoms. And then it turns out later we can divide them. Atom literally means indivisible. So like, yeah, no, it's not hydrogen. It's not. I mean, you could argue about whether atomism as a hypothesis could be empirically proven, but I don't think it could be, because I don't think you could disprove it. Yeah, I hope that makes it clearer.
Yeah, no, it does. We don't disagree about anything, I think. That's oh
But
my
like
god.
atoms, like presently what we call atoms is not what was historically atoms.
Okay. That is super helpful. Oh my god. Okay. Well, now we can I mean, that's what I got out of that paragraph. It's just to clarify the point that is now like basically mute, but also I don't know, was there anything else anyone wanted to say? There's a footnote, I think. Oh, that is in the first analogy. Okay. All right, I'll just keep reading then. If a substance passes out of a state A into another state B, then the point in time of the latter is different from the point in time of the first state and follows it. Likewise, the second state as a reality in the appearance is also distinguished from the first, in which it did not yet exist, as B is now distinguished from zero. I.e., if the state B differs from the state A, even only in magnitude, then the alteration would be an arising of B minus A, which did not exist in the prior state, and with regard to which the latter equals zero. Oh wait, no, this is the note. Note well that I'm not talking about the alteration of certain relations in general, but rather the alteration of the state. Hence, if a body is moved uniformly, then it does not alter its state of motion at all, although it does if its motion increases or diminishes.
Now I don't know what the hell he's talking about, because he's not an atomist. Because atoms can't alter their state besides their position. So he's not an atomist.
He's like an anti-atomist then. He's saying the opposite of that, right? The inverse, basically.
Like
Isn't he saying that things only change when there's, but if their whole body,
I'm starting to give up on the idea of making sense of what he's talking about. I think he has no idea what he's talking about. I really think he has no idea what he's talking
I
about.
want to spend more time figuring it out, but also fuck, this is already an hour 48 long.
I truly think that he is off his rocker with substance. He's not thinking about the consequences of his actions at all. I think maybe he's thinking of something like a table, and he's just ignoring the fact that you can destroy a table.
Well, you can like I don't yeah, I don't know. I mean, we might just fall into something else here, but I mean, it like you can destroy a table, but the table as like a substance like well whatever the fuck a table is, that persists in time, even if it's in the
It's just in
past.
time before there are any people.
Uh, well, he's talking like
It doesn't make sense.
Okay, that your question is invalid because this is taking place within a possible experience. There cannot be a
No,
possible
because it's still
experience.
objective. So when I use the law of cause and effect, there's still an objective
Objective
possible.
experience, like
No,
you
but there's
can't
still
just.
an objectively, but there's still before there are any human beings, there's an objectively posited object that is the cause of the effect. So even before I actually have an experience, let's say I pop into existence, let's say I'm Adam. He maybe believed in Adam, right? Let's say I am Adam, and I see that there is a tree in front of me, an apple tree even. I must posit that there was a cause of this apple tree. It didn't just come out of nowhere. But the tree was there before I just came into existence just now. So, therefore, I must posit that there was something before my experience, and therefore outside, quote unquote, of my experience. Not totally outside of, not in itself, related to my experience, but outside of like what I could actually like experience for myself, what is actually empirical for me. I posit an object. The object is the cause of the effect, and that chain goes on indefinitely into the past.
Right, and we need substance to even like to posit that thing. Like that's what substance is that thing.
Right, but the only way I can make sense of what he's talking about is a singular substance, which is matter. But he keeps using the term substances. Then I thought
Wait,
maybe he's an atomist, and the
no, no,
substance
no, no. I think he literally is misusing like
his own words.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think.
So
I
I
think he
don't think he
doesn't really
doesn't know what he's
substance.
talking about. I think he just uses words poorly. I think there's a different thing.
Well, but then what does he think substance is? Like, really?
Well,
Oh,
just
you
what
think
we
it
were
is?
saying.
Oh, it is one substance. Oh, but he's
Probably,
just
yeah.
using the word substances. Okay. Yeah, that's plausible. That is the way Schopenhauer interprets it. So
That's the only way I think it makes sense given everything you said. But
yeah, I
okay,
guess so. But
fuck.
he uses the word substances in the plural.
Yeah, that's the mistake. That's like it's also when he fucks up transcendent transcendental. It's like
Like, how do you mistake? How are you like, oh yeah, there's one substance matter, and then like keep writing substances? How?
don't know. Yeah, can't
Like, and he
explain it.
talks about multiple substances too.
Yeah, I can't explain it, but I mean, I just want to grasp at least conceptually something from this section without being lost, and that's something that I can pull away. Is like, okay, yeah, we understand persistence through this concept of necessary alteration.
Hmm. Well, it's yeah, that's true.
That's what I'm getting out of this whole like thing.
All right. Well, let's continue, I guess.
Am I reading or
I
no? I think you're
forget.
reading, right?
Okay. The question therefore arises how a thing passes from one state A into another one B. Between two instances there is always a time, and between two states in those instances there is always a difference that has a magnitude, for all parts of appearances are always in turn magnitudes. Thus, every transition from one state into another happens in a time which is contained between two instants, of which the former determines the state from which the thing proceeds, and the second the state at which it arrives. Therefore, both are therefore time, boundaries of the time of an alternation, consequently of the intermediate state between two states, and as such they belong to the whole alteration. Now, every alteration has a cause, which manifests its causality in the entire time during which the alteration proceeds. Thus, this cause does not produce its alteration suddenly, all at once, or in one instant, but rather in a time, so that as the time increases from the initial instant A to its completion B, which I thought you said it doesn't do that sometimes. Like, a lot of the time.
Oh yeah. I was just I thought you were saying me, but no, yeah, Kant. Yeah, what the fuck were? Yeah, okay. Let's get another just real quick.
Bruh.
All right.
The magnitude of the reality, B to A, is also generated through all the smaller degrees that are contained between the first and the last. Which, again, yeah, I agree with you, but you don't seem to. All alteration is therefore possible only through a continuous action of causality, which, insofar as it is uniform, is called a moment. But the alteration does not consist of these moments, but it is generated through them as their effect.
God, why do you keep going back and forth? You fucking, I don't even know. All right. I mean, was there anything else to say about that? I think
No,
the point of that
it's
paragraph can be pretty well understood through our
You know
complaining
that
about
thing I
him
said
contradicting
earlier?
himself.
Nah.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly. All right. Moving forward, almost done. About a page ish, probably less. Very awesome. I'm tired. Fuck. That is now the law of continuity of all alteration. Ah! The ground of which is this, that neither time nor appearance, and time consists of smallest parts, so not an atomist, okay, and that nevertheless, in its alteration, the state of things passes through all these parts as elements to its second state. Right. So the elements change. The thing doesn't change. No difference of the real in appearance is the smallest, just as no difference in the magnitude of time is, and thus the new state of reality grows out of the first, in which it does not exist. Through all the infinite degrees of reality, the difference between which are all smaller than that between 0 and A. What utility this... Oh, sorry. Should I keep
I
reading or no?
guess.
Okay. What utility
What,
this prob... Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
what utility this proposition may have in research into nature does not concern us here. But how such a proposition, which seems to amplify our cognition of nature so much, is possible completely a priori, very much requires our scrutiny, even though it is obvious that it is real and correct. One might therefore believe oneself to be relieved of the question of how it is possible, for there are many unfounded presumptions of the amplification of our cognition through pure reason, that it must be adopted as a general principle to be distrustful of them and not believe and accept even the clearest dogmatic proof of this sort of proposition without documents that can provide a well-grounded deduction.
Interesting. I wonder what he's getting at there, like specifically. I mean, if anything, I'm wondering if he's hinting at like, yo, principle of sufficient reason that I was just saying this whole thing relies on.
Well, it seems
Well,
to be
kind
talking
of
about
lead.
the way time could be like deduced, time could be like broken up, but I don't think he's really offered good evidence of it yet, so I guess he's going to do that.
Yeah. All right. All growth of empirical cognitions and every advance in perception is nothing but an amplification of the determination of inner sense, i.e., a progress in time, whatever the objects may be, either appearances or pure intuitions. This progress in time determines everything and is not itself determined by anything further, i.e., its parts are only in time and given through the synthesis of it, but they are not given before it. For this reason, every transition in perception to something that follows in time is a determination of time through the generation of this perception, and since that is always and in all its parts a magnitude, the generation of a perception as a magnitude through all degrees, of which none is the smallest, from 0 to its determinate degree. It is from this that the possibility of cognizing a priori a law concerning the form of alteration becomes obvious. We anticipate only our own apprehension, the formal condition of which, since it is present in us prior to all given appearance, must surely be able to be cognized a priori. You want to finish it off?
Okay, sure. In the same way, then, that time is the a priori sensible condition of the possibility of the continuous progress of that which exists to that which follows it, the understanding, by means of the unity of our perception, is the a priori cognate condition of the possibility of a continuous determination of all positions for the appearances in this time through the series of causes and effects the former of which inevitably draw from the existence of the latter after them, and thereby make the empirical cognition of temporal relations universally valid for all time, thus objectively valid. Okay, so we're just summarizing the section then, I guess.
Yep. Yay! It's over. I find it kind of ironic how like the most anticipated section, or at least one of the most anticipated sections, of the whole critique that we started the study with, we finally get to it, and it's just like, holy
Well,
shit.
it was really good in the beginning, and
Yeah.
then
No, it
he like
was. Sorry. Yeah, I
shut
don't mean to
up,
take away from that, but like,
and then
goddamn,
he
after that, it was like,
shut up, dude.
yeah. And this we've already covered. Well, if you're watching
feel
this,
like- I feel like he made it longer to emphasize how important it was. I think that's what he did.
I guess that makes sense. I mean, I'm certainly not going to forget it anytime soon. So I guess maybe I don't know. Took a rhetorical approach. We've made it to the end. And if you're watching this chronologically, this is coming up next. But we've already covered this like probably fucking close to a year ago, or many months ago. So enjoy watching that. The principle of simultaneity. This is the simultaneity that I thought he was talking about earlier. And actually, maybe it's worth revisiting because all substances, insofar as they are simultaneous. So maybe what I said before was just bullshit because I don't think this is a slip of the tongue. This is to have multiple things in interaction with one another. You don't slip that up.
Yep.
Okay. Pat and I will have a lively conversation off camera about that. Maybe we'll rewatch what we put, but the point is it's out already, so have fun watching that next. I'll order this in the playlist so it's chronological. Or I'll order it to the a priori rule of chronology.
I think he just forgot that, like, I don't know what he's talking about. I think he forgot that you can like create and destroy. I don't know. Any conventional object can be created and destroyed. I think he forgot that like you can like destroy a table. I think he forgot that you can destroy a tree or something like that. I don't know. It doesn't make sense. The pieces do not fit.
Yeah.
Wait, what's the Kantian wisdom of the day?
What'd you say, Kirk?
He's
That was
not very
totally
wise.
muffled.
Kantian wisdom of the day?
The Kantian wisdom of the day is
Oh.
that Kant is not very wise.
Yeah, that's like the meta wisdom. That's like the Kantian wisdom of the day. Don't order your perceptions out of time.
That was the Kantian wisdom of last time.
Fuck.
There's no Kantian wisdom today. It's just nonsense.
There's got to be something, and there's some because the principle of sufficient reason, that would just be basically the same thing, right? Is what I just
Yeah,
said.
it is the same thing.
In this context. Hold on. So this is the repetition. If something happens. I guess don't be caught up in your this is almost the same thing, but I think slightly different. Don't get caught up in your subjective perspective and try to see if your experience is depending on a rule, and if it's not, then you're probably not going to have a very fun time living in the world, in the objective world. Everyone's going to be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Which will suck because that's confusing.
So facts don't care about your feelings.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, you facts don't care about your feelings. They care about rules. So yeah, okay, there you go.
Facts don't care about your feelings. That's Kantian wisdom of the day.
God, demoted to Ben Shapiro, wisdom of the day.
He's
Damn.
been demoted to Ben. You've been demoted to Ben Shapiro.
I didn't know you've been promoted to Ben Shapiro if you're a fan of Ben Shapiro.
That's the implication, is that we're not fans of Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, that is the implication.
All right. Kantian wisdoms of the day have been completed. I don't know, Kirk, do you have one? It seems like Kirk does not have a Kantian wisdom of the day, which means that we're out of here. 2 hours. Thanks for sticking around. If you have, God bless. We'll see you next time, which has already happened in our time because we've done this. So in the objective flow of time, we'll see you back in the transcendental dialectic.
It's all right. They know that we have to precede the effect, since the video is the effect and we are the cause, so we have to proceed.
We
You
will
there?
we will succeed you, be with you simultaneously next time. Bye bye.